It started as a dare. It's a stupid, reckless dare. Ethan, Riley, Sam, and I had done our fair share of urban exploration. Old warehouses, abandoned schools, and even a crumbling shopping mall on the outskirts of town. But nothing came close to Blackwood Asylum. Blackwood had been shut down for over 50 years. A relic from an era of cruel and outdated psychiatric treatments, the asylum had developed a reputation that kept most people away. Stories of inhumane experiments, violent patients, and ghostly figures seen through broken windows made sure no one lingered too close. Except for us. We met at Ethan's house at midnight, our backpacks filled with flashlights, snacks, and Sam's ever-present camera. He insisted on documenting all our explorations, convinced he'd catch something supernatural on film one day. Riley had scoffed, but I knew she was just as nervous as I was. "This is a bad idea," she muttered as we approached the asylum's rusted gate. Sam grinned. "That's what makes it fun." The fence surrounding the asylum had long since collapsed in places, allowing us to slip inside with ease. The building loomed before us, its skeletal remains shrouded in vines and darkness. The air was thick and heavy with the scent of decay and dampness. Ethan led the way, his flashlight casting eerie shadows against the cracked walls. We entered through a side door, its hinges barely holding on, and stepped into the dimly lit corridor. The temperature dropped instantly, sending a shiver through me. "Okay," Ethan whispered, pulling out a crude map he'd printed from an old newspaper article. "Main hall is ahead. The patient rooms are to the left, and the records office should be at the end of the right wing. Let's check out the records first," Sam suggested. "Maybe we can find something juicy." The hallway stretched before us, lined with doors barely clinging to their frames. Some hung open, revealing empty rooms with rusted bed frames and peeling wallpaper. Others remained shut, their small windows covered in grime too thick to see through. As we walked, the floor creaked beneath us, each step stirring up dust that danced in our flashlight beams. I glanced at Riley. Her arms were crossed tightly over her chest, her usual confidence replaced by something close to fear. "This place is giving me the creeps," she whispered. "You say that every time." Ethan chuckled. "This time, I mean it." A sudden clatter echoed from somewhere down the hall, making us all freeze. My heart leaped into my throat as we turned toward the noise. "Probably just a rat," Ethan said, though his voice was less confident now. Sam raised his camera. "Or something else." We pressed on, the silence growing heavier with each step. The deeper we went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. It was as if the building itself was watching us, waiting. We reached the records office and found the door ajar. Ethan pushed it open, revealing a room filled with toppled filing cabinets and scattered papers. Sam immediately started rifling through the mess, searching for anything interesting. "Hey," he said suddenly, holding up a tattered folder. "Check this out." The label read Ward 6, Restricted. Riley frowned. "Ward 6? Ethan nodded. The worst of the worst were kept there. Criminally insane patients. Violent ones. I swallowed hard. "Where is it?" Ethan glanced at the map, then pointed. "Just past the main hall." A chill ran down my spine. The air seemed to grow colder, the weight of the asylum pressing down on us. Sam grinned. "Well, what are we waiting for?" And with that, we turned toward Ward 6, unaware that we had just made a terrible mistake. The hallway leading to Ward 6 felt different. The air was thicker, the shadows darker, as if the asylum itself was warning us to turn back. None of us said anything, but I could feel the tension in the group. "Anyone else getting a bad feeling?" Riley muttered. Ethan chuckled nervously. "It's just an old building. Nothing to be scared of." Sam's camera light flickered. He smacked it. "That's weird. The battery was full a minute ago." I swallowed hard. "Maybe we should go back." Sam scoffed. "And miss out on Ward 6? No way." The door to the ward was made of heavy metal, rusted around the edges. Ethan reached for the handle and hesitated. He looked back at us, then pushed. The door groaned open, revealing a long corridor lined with doors. Some hung open, revealing empty, decayed rooms, while others remained shut, their small observation windows covered in grime. We stepped inside. Immediately, the temperature dropped. A damp, stale smell filled my nostrils, a mix of mildew and something else, something metallic. Blood, Riley whispered. It smells like blood. I shivered. Sam took a few steps ahead, his camera rolling. This is insane. These rooms. He trailed off, peering into one of them. Guys, come look at this. We huddled around, peering inside. The walls were covered in deep gouges as if someone had scratched at them over and over again. The bed frame was overturned, its mattress torn to shreds. Faint markings were etched into the concrete. They were trying to get out, I murmured. Or something was trying to get in, Ethan said. A loud clank echoed down the corridor. We all jumped. What was that? Riley whispered. No one answered. We turned slowly toward the sound. A door at the end of the hall stood slightly ajar, swinging ever so slightly as if someone had just passed through. Sam, of course, started walking toward it. Sam, wait! I hissed. But he didn't stop. Ethan groaned. We can't let him go alone. We followed, each step sending a wave of unease through me. The closer we got, the more my body screamed at me to turn around. Sam pushed the door open wider, shining his camera light inside. The room was almost identical to the others, except for one thing. There was writing on the walls. Dozens of jagged words carved deep into the surface, as if by fingernails. One phrase repeated over and over. It seems. It waits. It follows. My stomach twisted. Guys, let's go. Sam zoomed in with his camera. This is crazy. Who wrote this? Then, the whispering started. It was faint at first, like a breeze pushing through the cracks in the walls. But it grew louder, overlapping voices whispering in unison. Words I couldn't understand. Words that weren't meant for us. The lights flickered violently. My breath hitched in my throat. Then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks from inside the room next to us. Riley screamed. Ethan grabbed my wrist. We're leaving. Now. None of us hesitated. We turned and ran, sprinting down the hallway, the whispers growing into a roar behind us. The door to Ward 6 slammed shut as we burst into the main hall, nearly collapsing in relief. Panting, we glanced back. The corridor behind us was empty. Silent. As if nothing had ever happened. Sam checked his camera. Guys, the footage is gone. My blood ran cold. Riley wiped her face, still shaking. We should never have come here. Ethan nodded, his face pale. Let's get out of here. But as we turned to leave, I felt it. Something watching us. Something waiting. We moved quickly, our footsteps echoing through the abandoned asylum. The weight of what had just happened clung to us like a second skin. No one spoke. No one dared to. Ethan was the first to break the silence. We shouldn't be here. Riley nodded, hugging herself. Something's wrong with this place. We need to leave. Sam checked his camera again, frustration evident on his face. It's all gone. The whispers, the writing, it's like none of it happened. That's because we weren't supposed to see it. I murmured. A sudden thud stopped us in our tracks. We turned toward the sound. It came from behind a nearby door, one that was slightly ajar. A sliver of darkness leaked from the space between the door and the frame. Do not open that, Riley hissed. But Sam, ever the fearless idiot, stepped forward. Sam, don't. Ethan started, but it was too late. Sam pushed the door open. The room inside was in worse shape than the others. The walls were covered in deep, jagged scratches. The bed frame was overturned, the mattress torn apart as if something had ripped through it in a frenzy. And then there was the mirror. It was large, spanning almost the entire length of the far wall. Unlike the rest of the asylum, the glass was pristine. No dust, no cracks. It reflected the room perfectly, every shadow, every detail. Except for us. I gasped. The room was empty in the reflection. We need to go, I whispered, backing away. Riley grabbed Sam's arm. Now. But Sam wasn't looking at the mirror anymore. He was staring at the far corner of the room. Guys, he breathed. There's something in here with us. I turned my flashlight toward the corner. The beam flickered and sputtered, barely illuminating the space. And that's when I saw it. A shape, barely distinguishable from the shadows, hunched low. It was wrong, its proportions off, its limbs too long, its fingers curling against the floor like claws. And then it moved. A guttural clicking sound filled the air. My blood turned to ice. We bolted. Ethan slammed the door shut behind us, his breath ragged. What the hell was that? No one answered. We didn't need to. We all felt it. Whatever it wasn't human. We have to get out of here, Riley panted. Right now. Sam shook his head. We have to find another way. The entrance. A scream cut him off. It came from deeper inside the asylum. My stomach dropped. It wasn't one of us. Ethan swore. There's someone else here? The scream came again, high-pitched, raw with terror. And then it turned into laughter. Low, guttural, and wrong. The air turned suffocating, pressing against us like unseen hands. The lights flickered violently. Shadows stretched along the walls, creeping toward us. Something was coming. We run, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Now. None of us hesitated. We turned and sprinted down the hall, the laughter echoing behind us, growing closer with each step. Whatever it wasn't going to let us leave. We ran blindly through the darkened corridors, our footsteps echoing against the cold, decayed walls. The laughter behind us had shifted, morphing into something worse, a gurgling, rasping noise that slithered through the air like a living thing. Where do we go? Riley panted, her voice ragged with fear. There has to be another exit, Ethan said. We just need to. A loud crash cut him off. Behind us, the door we had slammed shut moments ago burst open with a force that sent dust and debris billowing down the hall. A thick, suffocating dread pressed against my chest, urging me to keep moving. We turned a corner and nearly stumbled into a rusted staircase leading downward. The steps disappeared into complete darkness, the air that wafted up carrying the scent of mildew and something rotting. No way, Riley said, shaking her head. No way I'm going down there. We don't have a choice, Sam insisted. We can't go back. A guttural, clicking sound echoed from behind us, closer this time. I swallowed hard and decided for all of us. I stepped onto the first stair, gripping the railing as I descended. The others hesitated for only a second before following. Each step groaned beneath our weight. Dust swirled in our flashlight beams, revealing the extent of the decay. The deeper we went, the colder it became. By the time we reached the bottom, it felt like we had stepped into another world. The basement stretched before us like a maze, a network of narrow hallways and locked doors. The ceiling dripped with moisture, and the walls were covered in what looked like old, faded writing. My flashlight flickered, casting strange shadows that seemed to twist and shift when I wasn't looking directly at them. What is this place? Ethan murmured, trailing his fingers along the writing. These symbols. They're warnings, Riley whispered, her eyes wide. They're telling us to leave. Sam adjusted his camera, his hands visibly shaking. Then why the hell is there no way out? I turned in a slow circle, my heart sinking. There was no staircase leading back up. The entrance we had just come through was gone, replaced by nothing but an unbroken wall of concrete. Panic settled over us like a heavy fog. No, Ethan breathed, stepping forward and pressing his hands against the wall. No, no, no. This isn't possible. Sam turned his camera back toward the hallway. Guys, we're not alone. We followed his gaze. At the very edge of the light, Barely distinguishable from the shadows, a figure stood motionless. It was tall, too tall. Its limbs were elongated, its body emaciated, as if it had been starved for centuries. The only feature visible was its mouth, stretched into an unnatural grin, teeth jagged and gleaming in the dim light. And then it took a step forward. The air turned to ice. My breath hitched in my throat. "We need to run," Riley whispered, but none of us could move. The figure tilted its head, watching us. Then it whispered in a voice that wasn't human. "You shouldn't have come here." The lights went out. And the screaming began. Part 5, No Way Out. Darkness swallowed us whole. The moment the lights went out, the screaming began, first Riley, then Ethan. I wanted to scream too, but fear locked my throat shut. Something moved in the blackness. Fast. Unnatural. A shadow against the void. "Run!" Sam's voice cut through the chaos. We bolted, sprinting blindly through the labyrinth of the basement, our footsteps splashing in stagnant puddles. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out the guttural whispers that surrounded us. The thing was close. Too close. I could feel it, the way the air thickened, the scent of decay curling around us like invisible tendrils. "This way!" Ethan yanked my arm, pulling me into a side corridor. The others followed, panting, their faces pale even in the dim light of our flickering flashlights. We collapsed against the damp walls, trying to catch our breath. Sam checked his camera. "It's still recording." His hands trembled. "Tell me someone else saw that thing." No one spoke. We all saw it. We all felt it. "There has to be another exit," Riley gasped. "We can't be trapped down here." Ethan turned in frantic circles, scanning the crumbling walls. "The asylum had an underground tunnel system. If we can find it." A low, scraping noise interrupted him. A slow, deliberate sound, like nails dragging against concrete. My stomach twisted. "We need to move," I whispered. We ran again, weaving through the endless corridors. The air felt heavier, like something unseen was pressing down on us. Then ahead, a door. Sam reached it first, grabbing the rusted handle and shoving his weight against it. "It's stuck!" "No, no, no!" Riley whimpered, slamming her fists against the wood. The scraping sound grew closer. I grabbed Ethan's flashlight and aimed it down the corridor. The beam caught movement, a figure standing at the far end. Watching. Its grin was wider now, unnatural, as if it had been carved into its face. It tilted its head, jerking in quick, disjointed motions. Then it started running. "Open the door!" I shrieked. Ethan and Sam rammed into it together. The wood cracked. Another shove and it burst open, sending us sprawling onto the cold floor beyond. We scrambled up, slamming the door shut just as something crashed into it from the other side. The entire frame shuddered. The whispering returned, louder, like a chorus of voices speaking in languages we didn't understand. A stairwell stretched before us. Up. Toward the surface. We didn't hesitate. We ran. Each step felt like it took an eternity. My lungs burned. My legs ached. But the thought of stopping was worse. We burst through the final door, and out into the night air. Cold. Crisp. Real. The asylum loomed behind us, silent once more. We didn't stop running until we reached the edge of the property, panting and shaking. Ethan bent over, hands on his knees. "Is it gone?" Sam checked his camera. He turned the screen toward us. The last frame showed the doorway we had escaped from. And just beyond it, the figure. Standing there. Watching. Still grinning. The screen flickered, then went black. We never spoke about that night again. We never went back. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still hear the whispers. And I know it never left.